Have you ever sent a message, waited, and nothing? You see that tiny scene, tick, or worse, no response at all. And suddenly your brain starts spinning. Did I say something wrong? Are they mad at me? Should I double text? Should I pretend I don't care when actually I do? Pause. Breathe. Here's the first thing they do. They don't rush to fill the silence. Neuroscience tells us that silence triggers discomfort in the amygdala, the brain's threat detection system. Most people panic and double text, over-explain, or spiral into self-blame. Emotionally intelligent people pause. They understand that someone else's delay in responding is data, not a verdict. It could be personal, situational, or intentional, but it's never about their entire worth. This is what psychologists call cognitive reframing. They reframe being ignored not as a rejection, but as information. Second, they observe their internal dialogue. Our thoughts after being ignored can become toxic fast. I'm not interesting enough. They probably found someone better. These are unfiltered distortions, emotional lies dressed as logic. Emotionally intelligent people notice the thought, name it, and challenge it. In therapy, this is called thought labeling, and it's proven to reduce emotional overreaction. Josh eventually realized his overthinking was louder than the actual event. That's when his mindset shifted. He didn't chase. He reclaimed. Let's go a level deeper. Emotionally intelligent people also understand power dynamics. If someone is ignoring you on purpose, they're asserting power. Silence can be a control tactic, whether consciously or unconsciously. Responding with neediness gives them leverage. Responding with grounded silence, on the other hand, flips the dynamic. You don't match neglect with desperation. You meet it with composure. In social psychology, this is known as status equilibrium. The person who stays emotionally centered in an uncertain dynamic often subconsciously takes the higher ground. But don't confuse this with playing games. This isn't about pretending you don't care. Emotional intelligence isn't cold, it's clear. So what do you do if someone you care about is ignoring you, and it's been days or even weeks? You communicate once, clearly, kindly, and then step back. That message might sound like, "Hey, I noticed you've been distant. If you need space, I respect that. If there's anything I've done unknowingly, I'm open to hearing it." That's emotional maturity. You're not chasing. You're clarifying. You're respecting their space and your own boundaries. Here's something most people don't talk about. Emotionally intelligent people also manage their ego spike. When ignored, your ego feels bruised, not always your heart. The bruised ego wants to prove itself. Send another text. Get a reaction. Remind them you exist. But emotional intelligence kicks in by recognizing, this isn't about me proving worth. It's about protecting my peace. They allow space for hurt, but don't turn it into a performance. That's self-containment. That's rare and powerful. Another powerful principle, they shift attention from the other person to self-curiosity. Instead of obsessing over why they're silent, they ask, why does this silence bother me so much? What wound is this poking at? Is this about this person or about a past experience of being dismissed? Often, the silence is just a trigger, not the core problem. Emotionally intelligent people turn pain into a portal for deeper self-awareness. Now, here's a neuroscience-backed truth. The brain reacts to social rejection the same way it reacts to physical pain. Yep, the same regions of the brain that light up when you get a paper cut are activated when someone ignores you. That's why it feels sharp, raw, and confusing. But emotional intelligence helps you regulate that pain instead of becoming it. One strategy is name and distance, e.g., this is rejection pain. It's valid, but temporary. Lab studies at UCLA have shown that even simply naming an emotion reduces its intensity in the brain. Still with me? Good. Because here's a hard truth. Sometimes, silence is a message, and ignoring it is emotional self-harm. If someone consistently ignores you, flakes, or disappears only to reappear when they want something, emotionally intelligent people don't tolerate that pattern. They don't invent excuses for the other person. They don't internalize disrespect as confusion. They understand this crucial rule. Emotional intelligence without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. You can be compassionate and still walk away. Before we dive into the next part, the emotional cliffhanger. How do you rebuild confidence and power after being ignored? Because here's the secret. It's not about the other person at all. It's about the self-relationship you strengthen afterward. And emotionally intelligent people use the silence not to shrink, but to rise. What they do next sets the stage for long-term self-worth, emotional mastery, and surprisingly, better connections in the future. That's what we'll break down next, including a rare, research-backed technique that Harvard psychologists use to help people emotionally detach from unresolved conversations. So, what do emotionally intelligent people do after the silence? After that ignored message, after the unanswered call, after that person disappears from your life, like you never mattered? Here's what separates them from the rest. They don't stay stuck in confusion. They pivot emotionally. They redirect their focus from, why did this happen to me? To, what is this teaching me about me? And this single shift? It's everything. There's a concept from Harvard's psychology department called emotional redirection. The idea that your attention is fuel, and where you place it either builds or breaks you. When you keep fueling thoughts like, I must not be good enough, I probably said something wrong, you're literally deepening neural pathways of unworthiness. But if you catch yourself mid-thought and consciously redirect, even for 30 seconds, you begin to rewire your brain out of rejection mode. It's called neuroplastic interruption, and it's powerful. One simple practice? Replace the thought with this: their silence is not my story. My response is. Now let's talk about one of the biggest emotional intelligence flexes, emotional detachment from outcome. It sounds simple, but it's actually elite-level mindset work. When you detach from needing closure, from needing validation, from needing them to come back and explain themselves, you win. Because you're no longer outsourcing your peace to someone else's behavior. And make no mistake, most people aren't emotionally intelligent not because they don't care, but because they're addicted to reaction. The ability to respond without reacting? That's maturity. But here's the question. How do you actually detach from someone whose silence still hurts you? Here's what Harvard's Social Cognition Lab suggests, and it's not move on. It's this: narrative rewriting. The story you tell yourself about why someone ignored you becomes your emotional reality. So instead of telling yourself, they ghosted me because I'm boring, reframe it into a version that empowers your growth. Try. They didn't communicate their needs clearly, and I deserve people who do. Or, this silence showed me where I was overavailable. That's my lesson. You are the author. And emotionally intelligent people are ruthless editors of their inner dialogue. And this doesn't mean they're emotionless. In fact, emotionally intelligent people are deeply feeling. They just don't let feelings drive their identity. They sit with pain, they name it, but they don't become it. That's emotional sovereignty. They also lean into something called emotional processing, not emotional suppression. Here's a quick framework you can use. Name the feeling. I feel rejected. Validate it. Of course I feel this way. I care. Separate identity from emotion. I feel ignored. That doesn't mean I am unworthy. This three-step process is proven to reduce emotional dysregulation. It brings you back to center without pretending nothing hurts. And while we're here, let's address one of the most misunderstood ideas, that not reacting means you're weak or passive. No, not reacting is a choice. It's emotional leadership. In fact, when someone ignores you and you stay composed, stay calm, and stay silent, you communicate power without saying a word. That's called nonverbal boundary setting. And the right people? They feel it. Let's return to Josh, the guy we mentioned earlier. After a few days of silence, he wrote a message he never sent. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't needy. It was closure for himself. He wrote, I valued our interaction. I sensed good energy, but your silence made me realize I was overinvested too soon. That's on me. I'm learning. Then he deleted the message. Why? Because he realized the power wasn't in sending the message. It was in owning his experience. That's emotional intelligence at work. Owning how you feel without demanding someone else fix it. Now let's shift into the confidence rebuild. Because after someone ignores you, especially if it happens repeatedly, your self-image can get shaken. Here's the truth emotionally intelligent people embrace. Your worth isn't up for negotiation based on someone's response to you. And to rebuild, they use evidence-based identity reinforcement. This means listing situations where they were appreciated, seen, respected, not just to feel better, but to remind their brain that one moment doesn't define the whole story. Another tool they use? Social recalibration. If one person ignores them, they don't isolate. They lean into relationships where there's presence, not absence. Because proximity to emotionally available people reteaches your nervous system what safety and connection feel like. And remember, your nervous system stores experiences like data. So if you keep chasing people who disappear, you reinforce anxious wiring. If you shift toward people who show up, you restore emotional security. Now let's bring this all together. Being ignored feels personal, but it rarely is. Emotionally intelligent people see silence not as a rejection to react to, but a reflection to learn from. They practice self-inquiry over self-blame. They create space instead of chasing closure. They protect peace instead of feeding ego. They rewrite the narrative instead of looping in old wounds. And ultimately, they grow not in spite of silence, but because of it. So next time someone ignores you, remember, your reaction is your identity in action. Will you spiral into self-doubt? Or will you rise into self-trust? Will you chase their attention? Or will you honor your presence? The most powerful version of you isn't the one who's never ignored. It's the one who knows exactly how to respond when it happens. And before you click away, here's one last thing. If you've been ignored, hurt, ghosted, or made to feel invisible, I want you to remember this. Your worth does not decrease based on someone's inability to see it. Read that again. Because emotionally intelligent people don't just know their worth, they protect it. With boundaries, with silence, and sometimes with walking away. If this hits something deep in you, drop a locked in the comments. That's our silent way of saying, I'm choosing to stay grounded when the world gets noisy. And if you want more content on building unshakable self-worth and emotional clarity, make sure you're subscribed, because we go way beyond surface-level self-help here. You're not overreacting. You're awakening. Don't forget that.